Great to be joined now by Marquette sixth-year head coach Steve Wojciechowski. Golden Eagles coming off a 24-win season. They were ranked in the top 10 in the nation, and they have reigning Big East Player of the Year Marcus Howard back. Coach, thanks for taking the time. You're coming off the trip to Spain and France. What a trip that was. What were your takeaways from it?
Well, there were a lot of takeaways. I mean, first of all, for us to be able to take our team to Spain and France was an incredible life experience. Our guys gained lifetime memories. It allowed us to grow closer as a team. It allowed us to experience some things that most people, and especially kids their age, would never have a chance to, whether that's sailing on the Mediterranean, floating around Barcelona, being around the Eiffel Tower, going to the beaches of Normandy. For me as a coach and a teacher, those are things that are priceless. And it also gives us a chance to get a better feel for our team from a basketball standpoint. In that regard, I think the 10 practices that we had prior to the trip were every bit as important as the 3 games. Any way you look at it, from a basketball standpoint, from a life experience standpoint, from a team building standpoint, I thought it was a win for our program.
What will be different about Marquette in 2019-20 that you saw in those 10 practices?
Well, I think we have a chance to be a good team. Obviously with Marcus and Sakar and Ed, you have 3 guys that are seniors that have been around the block in college basketball. The addition of Jace Johnson as a graduate senior was a really good addition for us. Obviously it's still August, so we have a lot of work to do, but I like our pieces. I think we'll be a little bit different of a team. I'm not sure we're going to be a team that utilizes the 3-point line as much. We're going to have to find other ways to score. Those are things we talked about. We want to continue to build on the improvements that we made defensively last year. We want to add a higher level of rebounding on both ends to that progress. And then we have to figure out the right system offensively that suits our team, whether we're playing a little bit smaller or whether at times we play 2 bigs.
When you go through what you went through in the offseason with the transfer of the Hauser brothers, you come together, I'm sure, as a staff, and you have to try to tinker some things on the roster. And you just allude to it a little bit. How much do you then talk to the rest of your team with what you have coming back? And you have a lot coming back to say, look, roles are going to be different, and we are going to need more from different guys to step up.
Well, I think it's really important, and our program's always forward-looking. And, we have good players in our program. We have amazing kids. And it's our job to put the pieces together and put them in the best possible position, to be successful. And that may be positions that they weren't in individually, or positions that, we weren't in collectively in terms of lineups. And so, the thought process of that started a long time ago. We were able to see in action what we liked, what we didn't like, what we need to work on, and where we need to grow.
How much could we see the leap from freshman to sophomore year, while he's a seasoned sophomore by age, in Brendan Bailey?
Well, I think Brendan's going to be a critical member of our team. I mean, he's one of the guys that can play both in the post if you're playing smaller, or on the perimeter if you're playing bigger. And, that's going to be an expanded role for Brendan. Obviously, the better he is, the better we're going to be. I think he has the talent and ability to do it. You have to remember, last season, he was coming off a 2-year hiatus from the game of basketball due to his Mormon mission. And so I think he's much more comfortable. He's gotten stronger. I think he's had a really good summer. And he knows that in order for us to reach our potential, he's got to be a critical piece to that puzzle.
Another critical part of your team is the dynamic in the backcourt. We've seen Marcus Howard work with Andrew Rousey, Joseph Chartouni. Now you've got another impact transfer coming in, and a lot of people are talking about Kobe McEwen and what he brings to the table. What's the dynamic between those two?
Well, I think they've really complemented each other incredibly well. Kobe was a key part of our team last year, even though he couldn't play. He allowed us to, on a game preparation basis, have a scout team. That was really good, and at times better than the teams that we were playing. Kobe's a very competitive player. He's a guy who can play both perimeter positions. He can be a primary ball handler and allow Marcus to play off the ball, but he can also play off the ball and allow Marcus to have the ball in his hand. So that versatility is really important for our backcourt. His competitiveness, I think, will really add to our team dynamics, and I think Kobe will be a very good player for us this year.
Any box that Marcus Howard could check off in his first 3 years, Coach Wojciechowski, he's pretty much checked off. What more can he do that you've talked about with him?
Well, one of the great things about Marcus is he's always looking to improve. I mean, you have to remember, in high school, he didn't play the point guard position. I mean, he was primarily a scorer, and obviously that's translated incredibly well to the college level. Now, one of the things that we need for him is to be that senior leader, that rock, a guy who makes and lifts his teammates. And I think that's the next step in his progression. Obviously, I'm okay with 40-point games and 50-point games, but on those games where that's not in the cards, how are you making the other people better? And that's an area that Marcus is focused on. I think he's embraced that, and he knows for him to take the next step as a player and for our team to take the next step as a group, he's got to be a guy on a daily basis that makes his teammates better, depending on what the game calls for.
You were just talking to the freshman class for Marquette. Classes are revving up, hard to believe. And you have a couple of freshmen, Symir Torrance, Dexter Cano. What do they bring to the table?
Well, first of all, they're great kids, and they're incredible workers for freshmen. I think one of the things I've been really impressed with them is even in the foreign tour practices, there wasn't a huge learning curve in terms of the workload on a daily basis. They really settled into that pretty quickly. In fact, more quickly than most freshmen. Both those guys have a chance to be really good players. Symir is the consummate team guy. I think he's a natural born leader. He'll do whatever it takes for the team to win. And then Dexter is a guy who has got a real high ceiling. He's a big time athlete, very conscientious kid, a hard worker, who is just scratching the surface of who he's going to be.
Finally, last year, you said it at the beginning of the season that now you've gotten a bit older while the rest of the Big East was a little younger. Well, a lot of teams swallowed their lumps, and now the conference on paper heading into this season certainly has raised expectations. What's your mindset on the league?
Well, I think the league will be as good as it's been since I've been in it. As you mentioned, I think the Big East, at least in my view, during my time in the league, we've been at our best when we've had consistently old teams, and teams were a little bit younger last year by and large. That's not the case this year. There's a lot of old teams, guys that have gained experience, a lot of talented players returning. Obviously, there's great coaches in the league. The league will be as competitive as ever, maybe more competitive than I've seen since I've been in the league.
Marquette will be looking for back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances in year 6 of the Steve Wojciechowski era. Coach, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.